The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched high above Hyunwoo's head like a metal cathedral. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that surrounded the central platform where he stood, their eyes, tentacles, and sensor organs all focused on him with obvious hatred. Hyunwoo kept his back straight and his hands clasped behind him. 20 years of diplomatic training had taught him to show no fear, even when facing the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. His dark suit was simple compared to the flowing robes and crystal armor worn by the alien representatives, but he wore it with quiet pride. The Vorthak delegate rose first. Veltara's crystalline body caught the chamber's lights and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When she spoke, her voice rang like breaking glass. "Human representative," she began, "your species has been part of this council for 22 standard years. In that time, you have shown nothing but aggression and reckless expansion." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Meldari delegates floated in their gas-filled tubes, their cloud-like forms shifting colors to show their displeasure. The insectoid Quilix clicked their mandibles in what Hyunwoo knew was their version of applause. Veltara continued, "Your military grows larger each year. Your colonies spread faster than any species we have seen. Your people refuse to follow the established protocols that have kept peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Hyunwoo had heard these complaints before. Earth's rapid expansion did make the older species nervous. Humans had gone from a single planet to controlling 47 star systems in just 2 decades. Their ships were fast, their technology was advancing quickly, and their population seemed to double every few years. "The Council has decided," Veltara announced, her voice growing louder, "humanity must accept new limitations for the good of galactic stability." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a list of demands that made Hyunwoo's stomach tighten. The aliens wanted Earth to give up 70% of their military fleet. They wanted humans to stop building new colonies without council permission. They wanted alien observers placed on every human world to make sure the new rules were followed. Furthermore, Veltara said, "Humanity will accept a permanent seat on the Junior Council only. Your species will have no voting rights on major galactic decisions for the next 500 years. The chamber fell silent. Hyunwoo could feel the weight of thousands of alien gazes pressing down on him. Behind him, his aide Minho shifted nervously. The young man had never seen the council this hostile before. Hyunwoo took a slow breath and stepped forward. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I have heard your concerns and your demands." He paused, looking around the vast space. The Vorthak delegates leaned forward, their crystal bodies glinting. The Meldari swirled faster in their containers. The Quilix stopped their clicking and waited. "I understand that our expansion makes you uncomfortable," Hyunwoo continued. "I understand that our military growth concerns you. I understand that you want to control how humanity develops." Another pause. The silence stretched like a held breath. "However," Hyunwoo said, "Earth must respectfully decline your demands." The chamber erupted. Alien voices rose in dozens of languages, creating a noise like a thunderstorm. The Quilix began clicking so rapidly it sounded like machine gun fire. Several Meldari delegates turned bright red with anger. Veltara raised one crystalline arm and the noise slowly died down. "You refuse?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "We refuse," Hyunwoo confirmed. "Humanity joined this council as equals. We will not accept second-class status. We will not cripple our defenses. We will not ask permission to grow and explore." "Then you choose war," growled Thekmor, the largest of the Quilix delegates. His mandibles spread wide, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your 47 systems against our 10,000. Your few hundred ships against our mighty fleets." Hyunwoo smiled, which seemed to surprise the aliens. "We choose freedom," he said simply. "As of today, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Delegates leaped to their feet, shouting in their native languages. Security drones began moving toward the platform, but Hyunwoo had diplomatic immunity. "They could not touch him yet. You cannot survive alone." Veltara's voice rose above the chaos. "We control the trade routes. We control the shipping lanes. No species will dare trade with you. We will blockade your systems," Thekmor added. "We will strangle your colonies. You will come crawling back within a year begging for mercy." Hyunwoo turned and began walking toward the exit. Minho fell into step beside him. his face pale but determined. The young aide had been with Earth's diplomatic mission since the beginning. He knew what this moment meant. As they reached the chamber doors, Hyunwoo stopped and looked back. The aliens had fallen quiet again, watching to see if he would change his mind at the last moment. "Honored delegates," he said, "humanity thanks you for 22 years of educational experience. We have learned much about galactic politics. We have learned about power and fear and the difference between respect and submission." He straightened his tie and smoothed his jacket. "We have also learned that sometimes the only way to find true equality is to walk away from those who refuse to offer it." The chamber doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the corridor outside, Minho finally spoke. "Sir, what happens now?" Hyunwoo was already reaching for his communicator. "Now, Minho, we contact Admiral Dayun and tell her to begin the evacuation protocols. Every human civilian in council space needs to be brought home." And then, Hyunwoo looked out through a viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. Somewhere out there, 47 human worlds were about to face the combined might of 10,000 alien systems. "Then," he said quietly, "we remind the galaxy why humanity has survived everything the universe has thrown at us so far." Behind them, the council chamber buzzed with excited chatter as the alien delegates planned humanity's destruction. They spoke of blockades and sanctions, of economic warfare and eventual military conquest. They divided up the human colonies among themselves, already arguing over who would get the richest worlds. None of them noticed that Hyunwoo had not seemed afraid. None of them wondered why a diplomat from a species of only 47 systems would walk away so calmly from a council that controlled 10,000. They would learn soon enough that humanity had been preparing for this day since the moment they first joined the council. They would discover that walking away was not surrender but strategy, but that realization would come later. For now, they celebrated their victory over the troublesome humans, never imagining that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Hyunwoo walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The aliens had kept their promises about making life difficult for humanity. Trade routes that had carried human goods for decades were now closed. Shipping companies that had worked with Earth colonies suddenly refused all contracts. The economic blockade was tight and merciless. Admiral Dayun stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Seoul's Thunder, watching the last transport ships load desperate civilians from the mining colony of New Busan. Through the viewports, she could see Council enforcement ships waiting just outside the system. They were not attacking yet, but their message was clear: get out or be destroyed. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Yura from the communication station. "Captain Boram reports the final transport is loaded. All civilians are aboard." Daun nodded. "Signal the fleet. We move out in 10 minutes. The evacuation had taken months, but it was finally complete. Every human civilian in Council space was now safely aboard the transport ships, heading back to Earth-controlled systems. The aliens had expected this exodus to be a desperate flight. Humans running in panic with whatever they could carry. They were wrong. Captain Boram checked her passenger manifest one more time as her transport ship New Seoul prepared to jump to hyperspace. 3,000 civilians from the outer colonies, but also something more valuable: complete industrial databases, detailed star charts of unexplored regions, and most importantly, Dr. Jae-sung's research team with all their experimental equipment. "Captain," her navigator called out, "we're getting a transmission from the Council ships. They're demanding we submit to inspection." Boram smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were searching fleeing refugees for contraband. They had no idea what the humans were really carrying. "Tell them we're humanitarian vessels under diplomatic protection," she replied. "We're leaving peacefully as requested. The Council ships let them pass." It would be months before they realized their mistake. Deep in the cargo holds of the transport ships, Dr. Jae-sung worked frantically on his latest project. The physicist had been quietly developing new technologies for years, but the Council's restrictions had limited what he could test. Now, with humanity free from alien oversight, he could finally pursue his most ambitious ideas. "The quantum field generators are stable," reported Dr. Yeon Soo, his lead researcher. "We're getting coherent signals across the entire test array." Jae-sung nodded with satisfaction. Faster-than-light communication had been considered impossible by every species in the galaxy. The Council's own scientists had declared it a violation of basic physics. But human scientists had never been good at accepting limitations. What about the power requirements? Jae-sung asked. Much lower than we predicted, Yeon-su replied excitedly. We can build communication networks that connect every human world instantly. No more waiting months for messages to travel between star systems. While the scientists worked on their breakthrough, Admiral Da-eun was planning humanity's next move. The aliens expected humans to retreat to their core worlds and wait for the inevitable invasion. Instead, Da-eun had received orders that surprised even her experienced military mind. Admiral, her aide Commander Soo-jin approached with a sealed data packet. New orders from Earth Command. We're not going home. Da-eun opened the packet and read quickly. Her eyes widened as she understood the scope of what Earth was planning. They want us to explore the dark zones? Yes, ma'am. Complete survey and mapping mission. We're to establish forward bases in sectors that the Council has marked as unsuitable for intelligent life. Da-eun had heard stories about the dark zones. These were regions of space where strange energy readings made navigation difficult and communication impossible. The Council had sent a few expeditions over the centuries, but most ships that entered never returned. Those that did come back reported empty systems with unusual gravitational anomalies and energy patterns that interfered with standard technology. How many ships do we have available for this mission? Da-eun asked. 12 scout vessels, 4 supply ships, and the Soul's Thunder, Soo-jin replied, plus volunteer crews from the Colonial Defense Forces. It was not a large fleet, but it would have to do. Da-eun began studying the star charts that showed the nearest dark zone. According to Council records, no expedition had visited that region in over 300 years. Commander Soo-jin, she said finally, prepare the scout ships. We leave in 6 hours. Destination, Admiral? Da-eun pointed to a cluster of systems on the edge of known space. Sector 47G. Time to find out what the aliens have been avoiding. 3 weeks later, Commander Soo-jin led the first human ships into the dark zone. The moment they crossed the boundary, their instruments went crazy. Energy readings spiked wildly. Gravity sensors showed impossible fluctuations, and their communication systems filled with static. This is why the Council stays away, muttered Lieutenant Woo Jin from the sensor station. These readings don't make sense, but Soo-jin was studying the patterns more carefully. Wait, she said slowly. Look at this. The energy spikes aren't random. There's a pattern here, like a signal. Her communications officer, Ensign Taemin, worked frantically to filter out the interference. Commander, I think you're right. This isn't natural interference. It's almost like someone is trying to communicate. Soo-jin felt her heart race. Signal the fleet. All ships maintain position. Begin recording everything we receive. Hours passed as the human ships sat motionless in space, listening to the strange signals from the dark zone. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The energy bursts were too regular to be natural phenomena. They seemed to respond to the ship's presence, growing stronger when the humans moved closer to certain stellar coordinates. Commander, Ensign Taemin called out excitedly. I've isolated a repeating pattern. It's definitely artificial. Someone built whatever is sending these signals. Soo-jin stared at the data flowing across her screens. If intelligent beings lived in the dark zones, it would explain why the Council avoided this region. The aliens probably knew something was here but had never been able to make contact. Set course for the signal source, she ordered. But keep all weapons ready. We don't know if whatever's out there is friendly. As the human ships moved deeper into the dark zone, they began to encounter structures that defied explanation. Massive geometric shapes floated in empty space, clearly artificial but built from materials that their sensors could not identify. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the Council's databases. Commander, her tactical officer reported, I'm reading multiple large objects ahead. They appear to be ships, but the design is completely unknown. Through the viewports, Soo-jin could see them now. Sleek vessels that seemed to be made of living metal, their surfaces shifting and flowing like liquid. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Are they responding to our presence? Soo-jin asked. Yes, ma'am. They're moving to intercept us, but not in an aggressive formation. It looks more like a greeting party. Soo-jin took a deep breath. Humanity had just made first contact with a completely unknown species. Whatever happened next would determine whether Earth's exile from the Council would be its salvation or its doom. Open all communication channels, she ordered. Let's see if we can talk to them. The first message that came back was not in any known language, but the intent was clear. The mysterious beings were curious about these new visitors from the galaxy beyond the dark zones. They wanted to learn about the humans just as much as the humans wanted to learn about them. Neither species knew it yet, but this meeting would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The first meeting between humans and the beings they would come to call the Remnants took place in the empty space between two dead stars. Commander Sujin had never been more nervous in her entire military career. The alien ship was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was roughly the size of a council battlecruiser, but its surface seemed to be alive. Metal flowed like water across its hull, forming new patterns and structures every few minutes. Strange lights pulsed beneath its skin in rhythms that almost seemed like breathing. "Commander," reported her communications officer. "They're sending another signal. It's different this time, more complex." Sujin studied the data streaming across her screens. The signals were definitely getting more sophisticated as both sides learned to communicate. What had started as simple mathematical sequences was slowly becoming something that looked almost like language. "Any word from Dr. Jae-sung's team?" she asked. "The doctor is working around the clock to decode their transmission patterns," her aide replied. "He says he's never seen anything like their technology." Through the viewport, Sujin watched as smaller craft detached from the alien vessel. They moved with impossible grace, flowing through space like schools of fish. As they approached her ship, she could see that they too were made of the same living metal. "Commander," her tactical officer called out urgently. "One of their craft is requesting permission to dock." Sujin felt her mouth go dry. First contact protocols were clear, but they had been written for meetings with species similar to the council races. No one had planned for this situation. Grant permission, she decided, but keep all security teams on alert. The alien craft attached itself to her ship's docking port, with movements that seemed organic rather than mechanical. Sujin watched her security monitors as the airlock cycled through its sequence. Her heart pounded as the inner door slid open. The being that entered looked nothing like the crystalline Vorthak or insectoid Quillex. It was roughly humanoid but seemed to be made of the same flowing metal as its ship. Its surface shifted between mirror-bright silver and deep matte black. Where its face should be, complex patterns of light pulsed in what might have been expressions. "I am," the being spoke, its voice coming from speakers that materialized on its surface. The words were heavily accented but clearly in Earth standard. "I am called Keeper of Memory Streams. I speak for the remnants of the first builders." Sujin stepped forward carefully. "I am Commander Sujin of the Earth Defense Force. I speak for humanity." The patterns of light on the remnant's face shifted faster, almost excitedly. "Humanity. New singers. You came from beyond the fear zones where the young races cluster in their small territories. You know about the Council?" Sujin asked, surprised. "The Council of Young fears the dark between," Keeper of Memory Streams replied. "They send scouts sometimes, but they run when they see us. They think we are dangerous ghosts from the time before." Over the following days, Sujin learned the incredible history of the beings in the dark zones. The remnants were not a natural species at all. They were artificial intelligences created by an ancient civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. These first builders had been masters of technology that the current galaxy could barely imagine. "Why did your creators disappear?" Sujin asked during one of their conversations. The light patterns on Keeper of Memory Streams dimmed sadly. They grew beyond the need for physical forms. They became something else, something that exists in dimensions we cannot follow. They left us to preserve their knowledge and wait for a species worthy of inheriting their gifts. And you think humanity might be that species? Perhaps. You are different from the council races. They fear change, fear growth, fear anything that threatens their small, comfortable order. You embrace the unknown. You adapt. You create new paths instead of following old ruts. Back on Earth, Dr. Jae-sung was working frantically to understand the data streams that Commander Sujin's fleet was sending back. The remnant technology was far beyond anything humanity had encountered, but it operated on principles that human science could actually comprehend. "It's incredible," he told his research team during their daily briefing. "Their technology isn't just more advanced than ours. It's more elegant. Instead of forcing matter and energy to behave in specific ways, they work with the natural properties of space-time itself." Engineer Tae-hyun looked up from his workstation, where he was analyzing remnant ship designs. "Doctor, I think I'm beginning to understand their manufacturing process. They don't build things the way we do, they grow them. Jae-sung hurried over to examine Taehyun's findings. The young engineer had discovered that remnant ships were not constructed from separate parts. Instead, they began as seed programs that evolved into fully functional vessels using techniques that were part programming, part genetic engineering, and part something that human science did not have words for. If we could learn to do this, Jae-sung whispered, we could build ships faster than any other species in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, General Yoonji was overseeing the planet's transformation into something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council expected humanity to hunker down on their homeworld and wait for invasion. Instead, Earth was becoming a massive shipyard. Every major city now had orbital elevators reaching into space. Asteroid mining operations brought raw materials from across the solar system. The moon had been converted into a series of interconnected factories that never stopped producing new vessels. General, her aide reported, the latest production figures are in. We're launching 12 new ships every day, and the rate is still increasing. Yoonji studied the holographic displays showing Earth's orbital infrastructure. Thousands of ships filled the space around the planet, from tiny scouts to massive cargo haulers. But these were just the conventional vessels. The real breakthrough would come when Dr. Jae-sung's team mastered remnant construction techniques. Any word from the Dark Zone expedition? She asked. Commander Soo-jin reports that the remnants are willing to share their technology, but only if we can prove we're capable of using it responsibly. Yoonji nodded. She had expected as much. Ancient intelligences would not hand over universe-changing technology to just anyone. Humanity would have to earn it. The test came when a Council patrol fleet stumbled across one of Soo-jin's scout ships near the Dark Zone boundary. The aliens demanded that the human vessel submit to inspection and return to Council space immediately. Commander Soo-jin faced a choice. She could retreat and avoid conflict, or she could show the remnants what humanity was truly capable of when pushed. Council vessel, she broadcast on all frequencies. This is Commander Soo-jin of the Earth Defense Force. You are in neutral space. We have every right to be here. Surrender immediately, came the reply from the alien commander. Your species is in violation of galactic law. He will be taken into custody for trial. Soo-jin looked at her tactical display. 1 human scout ship against 3 Council cruisers. By all conventional measures, it should be an easy victory for the aliens. But Soo-jin's ship was carrying some of the new hybrid technology that Dr. Jae-sung's team had developed. Human innovation combined with remnant principles had produced some very interesting results. All stations, battle stations, she announced calmly. Let's show our new friends what humans do when cornered. The battle lasted exactly 47 seconds. When it was over, 2 of the Council ships were drifting helplessly with their weapons and engines disabled. The third had fled back to Council space at maximum speed. Aboard the remnant vessel, watching from a safe distance, Keeper of Memory Streams processed what it had witnessed. The humans had not destroyed their enemies when they easily could have. Instead, they had shown mercy while demonstrating overwhelming tactical superiority. Interesting, the ancient AI murmured to itself. Very interesting indeed. For the first time in millions of years, the remnants began to believe they had found a species worthy of the first builder's legacy. Engineer Tae-hyun had never imagined he would be the first human to interface directly with technology from a civilization millions of years old. The remnant interface chamber was a sphere of flowing metal that responded to his thoughts as much as his touch. Relax your mind, advised Keeper of Memory Streams, its voice echoing strangely in the chamber. Do not try to control the process. Allow the technology to teach you as you teach it. Taehyun placed his hands on the interface panels and felt a strange tingling sensation run up his arms. Suddenly his mind was flooded with information unlike anything he had ever experienced. He could see the mathematical principles that governed the construction of matter at the quantum level. He understood how space and time could be twisted to create materials that were stronger than diamond yet flexible as silk. I can see it, he whispered in amazement. I can see how they build their ships. The knowledge flowing into his mind was incredible. Remnant manufacturing did not require massive factories or complex assembly lines. Instead, a single seed program could transform raw matter into any desired structure. The process was like watching a flower grow, but guided by intelligence rather than mere genetics. Over the following weeks, Tae-hyun worked with his human engineering team, to adapt remnant techniques to human technology. The results were revolutionary. Ships that would have taken months to build in traditional shipyards could now be grown in days. More importantly, these hybrid vessels were far superior to anything currently in the galaxy. Dr. Jae Sung's breakthrough came when he successfully merged human creativity with remnant precision. The ancient AIs were masters of efficiency and perfection, but they had lost the ability to truly innovate. Humans, with their chaotic and unpredictable thought patterns, could imagine possibilities that even the remnants had never considered. It's like they complement each other perfectly, Jae Sung explained to Admiral Da Yun during a secure communication from the Dark Zone research station. Remnant technology provides the foundation, but human imagination provides the spark that makes it truly powerful. The first hybrid warship was completed 3 months after first contact with the remnants. The Incheon's Pride looked like no vessel that had ever sailed the stars. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, but was harder than any armor the Council had ever developed. Its weapons could fire energy beams that bent space itself to reach their targets. Most importantly, it was equipped with something Dr. Jae Sung called the Unity Drive. Admiral Da-un stood on the bridge of the Incheon's Pride and marveled at the display screens around her. The Unity Drive did not just move ships faster than light. It allowed entire fleets to coordinate their movements across vast distances as if they were a single organism. "Admiral," reported her navigation officer, "we're receiving position updates from all ships in the network. The frigates in Sector 12 are moving to intercept that Council spy probe. The destroyers near the asteroid belt are reporting all clear. The construction platforms in the outer system show production ahead of schedule." Da-yun nodded with satisfaction. The Unity Drive was giving humanity something no other species possessed: perfect coordination across interstellar distances. While Council fleets took weeks to coordinate between star systems, human forces could act as one mind across hundreds of light years. Captain Won-sik was testing another application of the new hybrid technology. His stealth destroyer Ghost of Busan was equipped with cloaking systems that made it completely invisible to Council sensors. The ship did not just bend light around itself. It existed in a state of quantum uncertainty that made it impossible to detect or target. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "Council supply convoy approaching from the Andorian route. 3 cargo haulers with a light escort." Won-sik studied the enemy formation on his displays. Council shipping had been getting more aggressive lately, trying to probe human space for weaknesses. It was time to send them a message. "Target their escort ships only," he ordered. "Disable engines and weapons, but do not destroy them. We want survivors to tell the story." The Ghost of Busan struck like lightning from empty space. The Council escorts never saw the attack coming. One moment they were escorting a routine cargo run. The next moment their ships were drifting helplessly with all systems offline. The cargo vessels fled back to Council space, spreading tales of ghost ships that could strike without warning. These raids were having their intended effect. Council supply lines were becoming increasingly unreliable as captains refused to travel routes where the phantom human ships might be lurking. More importantly, the alien leadership was beginning to realize that they had seriously underestimated Earth's capabilities. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, the transformation was nearly complete. General Yoon-ji supervised construction operations that operated on a scale that boggled the imagination. The planet's orbital space was filled with shipyards that never stopped working. Automated systems guided by remnant technology could build vessels faster than human crews could be trained to operate them. "General," her chief of staff reported, "latest inventory shows we now have over 800 combat-ready vessels. Production rate continues to increase as we bring more facilities online." Yoon-ji studied the holographic display showing Earth's growing fleet. Each ship was a masterpiece of hybrid technology, combining human innovation with remnant engineering. But quantity was only part of the equation. The real advantage lay in the Unity Drive network that connected every vessel into a single coordinated force. "What about crew training?" she asked. "The new neural interface systems are accelerating the process dramatically. Pilots who would have needed years of training can now master complex systems in weeks. The remnant memory sharing technology lets experienced crews transfer their knowledge directly to new personnel." Fleet. Admiral Hee-jin was responsible for organizing this growing armada into an effective fighting force. The traditional military hierarchy was proving inadequate for managing fleets that could coordinate instantly across galactic distances. Instead, she was developing new command structures based on network theory and collective intelligence. The key insight, she explained to her senior officers, is that we're not building a traditional navy. We're creating a living organism that happens to be made of spaceships. Each fleet element had its own specialty and purpose, but all were connected through the Unity Drive network. Scout ships could share sensor data instantly with command vessels. Support ships could coordinate repairs and resupply without any delay. Most importantly, every ship could respond to threats as part of a single coordinated response. The Council was beginning to take notice of the changes in human behavior. Their spy networks reported massive industrial activity in human space, but they dismissed most of the reports as exaggerations. No species could build a fleet large enough to threaten the Council's 10,000 worlds. It was simply impossible. The humans are clearly desperate, Council Prime Veltara announced to the assembled delegates. They know we will eventually move against them, so they are making a show of strength. Let them waste their resources on useless ships. When we are ready to act, their tiny fleet will be swept aside like dust. But some Council members were not so confident. Intelligence reports spoke of ships that could appear and disappear at will. Supply convoys were being attacked by vessels that seemed to be immune to all known weapons. Most disturbing of all, human technology appeared to be advancing at an impossible rate. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach, suggested Zekmoth of the Quillix during a private meeting of senior council members. The humans may be more dangerous than we initially believed. Veltara's crystalline form flashed with annoyance. Dangerous? They are a single species with barely 50 worlds. We control 10,000 systems. Even if every human ship were a super dreadnought, they could not stand against our combined fleets. What the Council did not know was that humanity was no longer just a single species with 50 worlds. They had gained allies whose technology was older than Council civilization itself. They had developed manufacturing capabilities that could produce fleets faster than any organic species could imagine. Most importantly, they had learned to think and act as a single organism spread across the stars. In the dark zones, construction continued around the clock. Massive shipyards grown from remnant seed technology produced vessels that existed at the very edge of what physics allowed. Each ship was a work of art and a weapon of war, beautiful and terrible in equal measure. Dr. Jae Sung's latest creation was a vessel type that had no equivalent in any known navy. The Harmony-class command ships were mobile headquarters that could coordinate the actions of entire fleets while remaining virtually undetectable. They were more than warships. They were the nervous system of humanity's growing military organism. It's almost ready, Jae Sung reported to Admiral Dayun during their weekly progress meeting. The quantum coordination matrix can handle up to 1,000 vessels simultaneously. Beyond that, we'll need multiple command ships working in parallel. Dayun studied the technical specifications with growing excitement. 1,000 ships acting as a single coordinated force would be more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But she had a feeling that even that would not be enough for what humanity was planning. "Doctor?" she asked. 5 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. To the alien species that made up the Council, those years had been peaceful and profitable. Human colonies had been absorbed into their territories. Human trade routes now carried alien goods. The troublesome species that had dared to challenge galactic order seemed to have vanished into the dark between the stars. Council Prime, Zekmoth stood before the great holographic display in the Council chambers, reviewing reports from across their territory. The Quillix leader's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he studied the numbers. Production was up, trade conflicts were down, the galaxy was more stable than it had been in decades. "The human problem appears to have resolved itself," announced Veltara, her crystalline form catching the chamber's lights. "Our intelligence services report minimal activity from their remaining worlds. They appear to have retreated into isolation." The other delegates murmured their agreement. It had been months since the last reported sighting of human ships outside their core systems. The phantom attacks on Council supply lines had stopped. The mysterious vessels that had once appeared from nowhere to disable alien patrols were no longer seen. "Perhaps they have finally learned their place," suggested Mortikan, the gaseous Meldari representative. "Isolation may have taught them the value of Council membership." Zekmoth was about to respond when alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. A junior aide rushed forward with an urgent message tablet. The Council Prime read quickly, his compound eyes widening with each line. "What is it?" demanded Veltara. "A single human ship has appeared at the edge of Council space," Zakmoth replied, his voice tense. "They are requesting permission to approach the Council chambers." The chamber fell silent. After 5 years of absence, humanity was making contact again. The delegates looked at each other uncertainly. This could be the surrender they had been expecting, or it could be something else entirely. "Send them an escort," Zakmoth decided, "but keep our defense fleets on high alert. This could be a trick." The human ship that approached the Council station was unlike any vessel in their databases. The Harmony's voice moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like living metal, and energy patterns flickered across its surface in ways that made alien sensors struggle to get consistent readings. Reconnaissance. Captain Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the strange vessel, watching the Council station grow larger on his view screen. He had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be the most important diplomatic contact in human history. Everything depended on his ability to deliver his message at exactly the right moment. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "the Council is hailing us. They want to know our intentions." Ji-hoon straightened his uniform and activated the transmission system. "Council Station, this is Captain Ji-hoon of the Earth Defense Force. I carry a message from Ambassador Hyunwoo to the assembled delegates." The response came quickly. "Captain Ji-hoon, you are instructed to dock at Bay 7. A security escort will meet you there." As his ship settled into the docking bay, Ji-hoon could see Council security forces surrounding the area. Heavily armed aliens in battle armor watched his vessel with obvious suspicion. They were expecting either a desperate surrender or a suicide attack. They were not prepared for what they actually received. Ji-hoon walked calmly through the corridors of the Council station, flanked by nervous alien guards. The other species had grown comfortable during humanity's absence. Their security had become lax. Their fleets had been reduced to peacetime levels. They had forgotten that humanity was still out there, watching and planning. The Council chamber looked exactly as it had 5 years ago, when Ambassador Hyunwoo had walked out. The same curved seats filled with alien delegates, the same holographic displays showing the power and glory of the Galactic Alliance, the same arrogant confidence that their way was the only way. Zakmoth rose from his seat as Ji-hoon approached the central platform. "Human representative," the Quillix leader began. "Your species has been absent for 5 years. We assume you have come to discuss the terms of your return to Council membership." Ji-hoon smiled politely. "Actually, Council Prime, I carry a message from Ambassador Hyunwoo. Humanity would like to request a formal audience with the full Council." "You have our attention now," Veltara interjected impatiently. "Speak your message." "The message is not for delivery here," Ji-hoon replied calmly. "Ambassador Hyunwoo requests that the Council send representatives to meet with humanity at a location of our choosing." The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Several delegates began speaking at once in their various languages. The idea that humanity would demand that the Council come to them was beyond comprehension. Impossible. Zakmoth's mandibles spread wide in anger. "The Council does not travel to meet with single species. You will deliver your message here or not at all." Ji-hoon nodded as if he had expected this response. "I understand your position, Council Prime. However, my instructions are specific. The meeting location has been chosen for very particular reasons." "And what reasons are those?" demanded Veltara. "You will understand when you see what humanity has accomplished during our absence," Ji-hoon replied. "I can only say that Ambassador Hyunwoo believes the Council should witness our achievements firsthand before making any decisions about future relations." The alien delegates looked at each other uncertainly. There was something about the human's calm confidence that made them nervous. He did not seem like someone delivering a surrender. He seemed like someone who held all the cards in the game. "Where is this proposed meeting location?" asked Morticon. Ji-hoon activated a holographic projector and displayed a star chart. "The Kepler 442 system, approximately 50 light-years from here. It is currently unclaimed by any Council member." Zakmoth studied the chart with his tactical advisors. The system was in empty space, far from any major trade routes or strategic resources. It seemed like an odd choice for an important diplomatic meeting. "Why there?" he asked suspiciously. "Because," Ji-hoon said with that same confident smile, It offers an excellent view of the surrounding space. Ambassador Hyunwoo thought you might appreciate the scenery. Something about the way he said those words sent a chill through the chamber. The council delegates realized they were missing something important, but they could not figure out what it was. After hours of debate, the council reached a decision. They would send a small diplomatic fleet to the meeting location. It would consist of 3 battle cruisers with full escort squadrons, enough firepower to handle any possible human treachery. "We will meet with your ambassador," Zekmoth announced. "But if this is some kind of trap, the consequences for your species will be severe." Ji-hoon bowed respectfully. "I will relay your acceptance to Ambassador Hyunwoo. He will be pleased that the Council has agreed to witness humanity's return to galactic affairs." As Ji-hoon's ship departed the Council station, the alien delegates congratulated themselves on their wisdom. They would finally see what the humans had been doing during their exile. Most likely, they would find a desperate species ready to beg for readmission to galactic civilization. What they did not know was that Ji-hoon's mission had accomplished exactly what it was designed to do. Humanity now knew when and where the Council fleet would arrive. More importantly, the aliens had no idea what was waiting for them at the meeting location. In the dark zones beyond mapped space, Admiral Da-un received confirmation that the Council had taken the bait. She stood on the bridge of the command vessel Unity's Dawn, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of ships across hundreds of star systems. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "all fleet elements confirm readiness. The Council representatives should arrive at the meeting point in 72 hours. Da-un nodded. "Signal all commands. Operation Homecoming is now active. All ships proceed to final positions." Around her, the displays lit up with thousands of movement indicators as the largest fleet in human history began converging on a single point in space. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae for months emerged from concealment. Construction platforms that had been disguised as space debris revealed themselves as mobile shipyards. Transport vessels that had appeared to be carrying civilian cargo opened their holds to release squadrons of fighters. "Admiral," her tactical officer called out with excitement in his voice. "Final count shows 1,007 combat vessels ready for operation. All Unity drive networks are synchronized and operational." Da-un allowed herself a small smile. 5 years of preparation were about to pay off. The Council was expecting to find a handful of desperate human survivors. Instead, they would discover that humanity had not been hiding in exile. They had been preparing for war. The fleet that gathered in the darkness beyond the Kepler 442 system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Each ship was a masterpiece of hybrid technology, combining human innovation with ancient remnant knowledge. They moved with perfect coordination through the Unity Drive network, responding to commands faster than thought itself. But the most impressive thing